Anybody who has never in their lifetime looked for love, raise your hand.
Never?
We've all looked for love, right? We've got songs about it, looking for love in all the wrong places. Well, today I've got lots of questions for you and just a couple of answers. So we're going to look through first we're first going to define love, because in our culture at least, if not most cultures, we really confuse the term love, right? I love pizza. When I look for love in the form of pizza, I go to Benny's, right? So, that's not the kind of love that we're talking about today. So let's see if I can make sure this is working right.
Is it on?
Yeah, it's on. There we go. Well, let's start with one of our way showers. Let's start with the New Testament and what is probably the most famous passage on love. And I'd invite you to just close your eyes and listen to the words as if you're hearing them for the first time. If I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, but do not have love, I have become a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and know all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. And if I give all my possessions to feed the poor, and if I surrender my body to be burned, but do not have love, it profits me nothing. Love is patient. Love is kind and is not jealous. Love does not brag and is not arrogant, does not act unbecomingly, it does not seek its own, is not provoked, does not take into account a wrong suffered, does not rejoice in unrighteousness, but rejoices with the truth, bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. This is what we're talking about when we're talking about looking for love. And Jesus spoke of love as well. Jesus is attributed with lots of sayings around love. As some of you know that have seen my talks before, I studied Koine Greek in college, and I often use a book called the Five Gospels, which is a group of Bible scholars that came together and distilled down into the essence which passages in the New Testament they think that actually came out of Jesus's mouth. And in that book, there's only two passages that they attribute, Jesus probably said that. So one of them is love your enemies. And they attributed this to Jesus because it was so against the grain of the current culture at the time. We've evolved so much, haven't we? It's still countercultural to love your enemies. And Jesus said it over and over again. If you look at the books of the New Testament and look at how many times the word love is used in the four Gospels, Matthew only had 5 times that the word love is used. The Gospel of John had 46 times. So John just was filled with love. So if you want to read about the love that he felt toward the message, then just read the book of John. So if we look at the term, though, today, I went to the internet, the source of all knowledge, and looked on dictionary.com, and it had 14 definitions of love as a noun. So let's go through these and see if this is what we're talking about today. A profoundly tender, passionate affection for another person. Well, the love that we're talking about in the New Testament and in our lives is probably not that one. A feeling of warm personal attachment or deep affection, as for a parent, child, or friend. Well, that's kind of there, but that's not quite what I'm looking for either. Sexual passion or desire, we can eliminate that one. A person toward whom love is felt, beloved person, sweetheart, that's giving love. Used in direct address as a term of endearment. Would you like to see a movie, love? A love affair, an intensely amorous incident, amour. That's not quite what they were talking about in the New Testament. Neither is that one. So here's the other 7. A personification of sexual affection as Eros or Cupid. There's actually 3 words in the New Testament that are translated love. One is Eros, which is this one. The other is Philos, which is brotherly love. And the third one we'll get to in just a minute. Affectionate concern for the well-being of others, the love of one's neighbor. That's getting a little closer to what we're talking about when we're talking about love. So we'll leave that one there. Whoops. Let's get strong. Number 10, strong predilection, enthusiasm, or liking for anything. That's loving pizza or loving books. The object or thing so liked. The theater was her great love. Probably not what they're talking about in the New Testament. Here's one. The benevolent affection of God for his creatures, or the reverent affection due from them to God. That's close to what we're talking about today. 13, chiefly tennis, a score of 0, nothing. Love is nothing. Well, only in tennis. A word formerly used in communications to represent the letter L. I have no idea what that means. So that's not what we're talking about today. So there's a couple out of 14 definitions. We've got all kinds of stuff that we can talk about when we talk about that one word, love. But let's talk about what they used in the Greek New Testament. Agape is the name, or is the word that's used. And translated, agape means affection, goodwill, love, or benevolence. And the other definition, the one that I think probably nails it on the head when we talk about all of us at some point in our lives, either now or in the past, looking for love, is to value, to esteem, to feel or manifest generous concern for, to delight in. Isn't that what we each want? We each want to be able to move through the world and have someone or something help us to feel valued. Help us to feel like we matter, like we're important, like we're significant. And so when we talk about looking for love, that's what I want to help you today kind of work through, because like the country music song, a lot of times we look for love in all the wrong places. So let's talk about this word that's used. When we look to be valued, what characteristics are we looking for? What do we mean by valued? What separates someone or something that helps us to feel loved versus not feel loved? So, first of all, we want to be valued for all of who we are. Right? Not just the good-looking parts or the fun parts or the smart parts or whatever characteristics some people value us for. We want to be valued for all of who we are. The whole thing. What people think is valuable and what people think might not be so valuable. So we want to be loved comprehensively. We also look for love to be consistent, unwavering, right? We don't want it to be like a light switch where you turn on love and then you turn off love, and sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. You want that consistency. We want to know that it doesn't matter what happens, we're still loved. We also want to be valued without conditions, purely, without reservation. Not some bargain that we've made. If we do such and such, then we'll be loved, like an employer or whatever. We want to be loved purely, just without any conditions. And I think most of us want to be loved unendingly. Just goes on and on. We don't have to worry about it ending at some point. It becomes eternal. So let's ask a bunch of questions about where we can find these conditions for love. Each of us have different experiences. I'll share a few of mine. I'm not going to ask you to share yours because might be a little too personal, but I'll give you some examples as we go through these. So where do we find agape? Well, a lot of people first say, well, the family. Family is love. And family can be love, right? So when you feel loved, do you feel loved from your parents? Does it meet all of those conditions that we're looking for? Sometimes I didn't feel quite loved by my parents. Whether growing up I was told that I was, not going to amount to anything, or, we've all got stories about our parents not necessarily making their love unconditional and unwavering all the time, right? Some of us have pretty good stories about our parents and how they loved us, and that's wonderful. But, as a psychotherapist, that's one of the main things I work with, is people who had some difficulty with how they were raised and how they felt like they weren't loved. So what about our siblings? Well, any of you that have siblings, while you were growing up, you may not have felt much love, right? I remember to this day, the day that when my brother started beating me up, I could beat him. I won. I remember the day. I remember where it was in our backyard. Unconditional love. He's got a lot of loyalty toward me, but I'm not sure I can get to unconditional love there. So, how about our children? Do our children love us unconditionally? Well, the way to look at that is to think of myself and loving my parents. I honestly can say I didn't love my parents unconditionally. My mom was a smoker. I worked for years to get her to quit smoking and hated her for smoking. She died of cancer. So, I had to work through that, and I've done a good job of the things that she was challenged with. So, but as a child, I didn't necessarily love my parents unconditionally in that agape sense. Extended family, I have had a wonderful great aunt, Aunt Marlis, who was like a mother to me. That's probably even closer to unconditional love than my mother was. She didn't have as many requests of me to take out the trash or, whatever that I didn't want to do at the time. So she was probably pretty close to loving me unconditionally. And so we may find that agape in those circumstances. But she's gone now. So maybe the eternally lives on in her essence, but not in her physical presence. So if we may not find agape in given family, let's look and see what Jesus did with given family. While he yet talked to the people, behold, his mother and his brethren stood without, desiring to speak with him. Then one said to him, Behold, thy mother and thy brethren stand without, desiring to speak with thee. But he answered and said unto them that told him, Who is my mother, and who are my brethren? And he stretched forth his hand toward his disciples, and said, Behold, my mother and my brethren. For whosoever shall do the will of my Father which is in heaven, the same is my brother and sister and mother. So his message was, when you live in that place of agape, then we are family. We're connected. So let's look a little further. How about chosen family? We all have given family and we all have chosen family, like friends. Sometimes friends can be close proximity to agape. I have a beautiful best friend who next year we will have known each other for 40 years. And I got to spend a little bit of time with him last weekend. And it reminded me how deep our love is for each other. That's approximating agape. At some point, one or the other of us will die, and we won't have that ability to feel that connection in person. And so, it may not last into eternity. How about your partner or spouse? I've got a beautiful partner, spouse, that had these flowers made for me and celebrated my birthday beautifully. And she loves me in ways that I've never experienced in the world before. I'm so grateful. And there's sometimes that she's probably a little bit irritated with me.
No.
So that consistency, may not be there. I may get, 95%, but there's that other 5% that comes in. How about in-laws? We've all got, many of us have negative stories about in-laws, but there are probably just as many beautiful stories about in-laws, about connections that you make through the people that you choose to be in close proximity with. I got a beautiful blessing when I met and married Christine to have beautiful children that didn't come from my loins, but are as much my children as the ones that did. And they happen to come today, so thanks for coming to hear me talk. Pets. A lot of people find unconditional love from their pets, right? Pets are maybe the closest thing to pure love for their owners.
And they forgive you.
They forgive you, yeah. The only downside to pets is their longevity, is how long they live, right? They generally live a lot shorter than we do. And so we've got that reoccurring loss that happens. That ability it helps us to learn to let go, to grieve, and then to love again. And know that through the flow of the pets through our lives, we can feel that sense of love. So, let's talk about one other source of finding love. Do you find love when you look in the mirror? I know I don't all the time. Sometimes that's the hardest place to find love. And so we need a better source to remind us of our value, to remind us of who we are and how we can bring love into the world. So I have just one question for you about self-love. And it's one of my favorite questions. Whoops. Are you safe walking in the hallways of your mind? If you're not, then it's time to do some work. It's time to get to the place where you can help exit all of the stories, all of the tapes, all of the information that keeps you from recognizing your value that comes from our Creator. So the last place let's look for love is source or principle, God, spirit, whatever label you want to put on this unrelenting force that keeps us alive and keeps us vibrant. And let's look at the original list of what I said were the aspects or characteristics of love, of agape, and see how we do. Is the love from source comprehensive? Does it love us, all of the parts of us? Absolutely. Is it consistent? Does it ebb and flow? Only in our minds. When God doesn't feel like God is there, who moved? We moved. Is it pure, unadulterated, without conditions? Absolutely. And does it go on and on beyond our life into eternity? Absolutely. And Jesus told us that. He used a metaphor of clothing, but he told us that in the same way. If you want to insert the word love instead of clothing, then this passage makes a lot of sense. And why are you worried about love? Observe how the lilies of the field grow. They do not toil, nor do they spin. Yet I say to you that not even Solomon in all his glory clothed himself like one of these. But if God so clothes the grass of the field, which is alive today and tomorrow is thrown into the furnace, will he not much more clothe or love you? You of little faith, do not worry then, saying, what will we eat, or what will we drink, or what will we wear for clothing? For the Gentiles eagerly seek all these things, for your heavenly Father knows that you need all these things. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. In other words, if we look for love from source, from principle, then all of the smaller, mundane things of life will be taken care of. We'll be clothed, we'll be fed, we'll have all our needs cared for. So the question that we started with is, where do you look for love? And we'll take that into our meditation. I don't have any pictures. As many of you know, I take lots of pictures. I didn't have any pictures of lilies of the field, but I have a picture of a lotus flower. And so I'd invite you to get comfortable in your chairs. Close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing so. If not, soften your gaze or find something in the picture to focus on. Take a breath and connect with that part of you inside. Take a short trip from your head down into your heart. And as you find your way to your heart, take a moment to shut down all the external data coming in except for my voice. Allow your mind to quiet. Allow yourself to open up that heart space. And allow the love of your Creator to flow in to your heart. This beautiful energy that we call God or principle or spirit loves you so much that the life force that you're fed is unrelenting. It keeps your heart beating. It keeps you breathing. Allow yourself to go into a quiet space in the next few moments, receiving from your Creator the love that brought you into being. And as we gently come to a close of our meditation together, as you bring your waking senses back to activation, I'd invite you to remember that whenever you begin to look for love, know that all you have to do is get quiet and go to your heart to know that your Creator is pouring the love of the universe into you in every moment. Unending, pure, consistent, and comprehensive. Bring your awareness back to the room, back to your body. Re-engage your senses. Gently open your eyes.